and then end up in this infinite, clear void, heavenly blue. And it was the mind of God, infinite mind. And instantly I realized it's infinity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel within. Today, I will be speaking with Gary Wimmer, and I'm so excited to be delving into his story. Thank you, Gary, for being here with me today.
Mutual. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, like you said, the feeling is mutual. And how about we get started with? Why don't we get started with life before your NDE, if you will?
I was the third of seven sons. I was born in 47, November. I had two brothers, a year older and 2 years older, born on December 8th, exactly a year apart. And then I had four younger brothers. And out of all my brothers, I was the one who was most interested in science and spirituality and always thinking outside the box, and had puppets and chemistry sets. And they were all sportsmen as business people. I was, we were all raised Catholic. I was an altar boy. I knew the whole Mass in Latin. Uh, but when I went through puberty, I started questioning the Catholic Church. Anyway, I started reading a lot of Edgar Cayce in college, and I got very interested in it. A girl did a reading for me, a astrology chart, and said, "You got a lot of natural psychic ability. It's your choice whether to tune into it or use it or not." And I started when I moved to Austin in 1970. I graduated electrical engineer from Texas Tech in 1980, and it was Vietnam, and I had joined the sex, drugs, rock and roll dropout, Timothy Leary, psychedelic, you know, don't trust anybody over 30 mentality. So when I got, I served as a conscientious objector in Austin, Texas here, because I didn't want to go to Vietnam. It was that or Canada or Sweden. And my father, who was a captain in the Army, was uh, frustrated by the fact that I wouldn't accept military non-combatant duty. Nope, I'm going to be with civilian duty. Don't even want to participate in the whole circus. And during that period in the early 70s, I started learning to give readings with basically with a regular deck of cards, which is the same way I do today still. But in 1980, I met a lady who did readings by a system called lithomancy with 16 stones, and I can explain that. But I traveled with a lot of bands. I was a musician, didn't have a good voice, so I was a sideman a lot, and that kind of frustrated me. But in 1977, I quit a band. I needed to kind of get grounded and get off the road. And this was January 31st, 1977. That whole day, I'd felt very strange. Something was going on. That night, even got more intense. I sat down, I joined my roommates again back at the duplex I lived at and had been barely there at all. And I started hearing what they were going to say before they'd say it. Next day, I couldn't sleep that night. Next day, I woke up and my roommate's walking in with the newspaper, and I could see the headlines through his eyes. And things started getting weirder. I walked down to the store, a little 7-Eleven, a couple of blocks away, and every time someone would pass, I could hear everything they were thinking about. And I couldn't prove it, but it was too just right there for me to ignore. And within 24 hours, life had turned into a completely different world. I was picking up things about everybody, and I couldn't cut it off.
So it
And
was almost like a flip had switched
yeah,
somehow.
it can start flipping a switch. It started getting more intense. My roommate, some of my friends started getting concerned, as I did, because all of a sudden I was living in a surrealistic reality where someone would call and say, "I'm going to be over in a while." And I'd look at the clock and it'd jump up to 2:20, and I'd know that at 2:20 they're going to walk through the door. And because I couldn't turn this off, I felt like I had two choices: either absorb it, pick up stuff, which was on full blast like never before, or to take a break. I would try to interject something. And I'd look at a stranger 3 blocks away and I'd think, scratch your head and point up to that building. And they would do it. And then I would think, man, did I make that person do that? Or did I know they were about to do that and happen to pick it up? And at this point, I couldn't tell the difference between creator or witness. And I couldn't explain it to people. It was so intense, changing by the second. And I was seeing symbolism in everything. So it was incredibly fascinating and incredibly terrifying because I didn't know what or why or how. Uh, and every hour it started getting more intense. Now I started feeling this sort of being monitored or watched by what I called the monitors, or they hinted that'd be a good name. And that's about the only thing that gave me any sense of peace, so to speak. As something more powerful than me, God or guardian angels or something's watching over me because I can't make sense of what just shifted and has continued to escalate. My roommate at the time who was very concerned, like we went out to a restaurant. I wrote a whole book about that experience called The Second in Eternity. Even the police records are included in it, which I'll explain where they came from, you know. But my roommate and I, like we'd go to a restaurant and he noticed me getting more and more intense and picking up stuff and not even thinking about what I was going to do next with my music or my girlfriend or a car, or, it was just surrealistic, different universe. So he asked me, he said, "What's going on? To explain it to me, man. You gotta, you're acting too strange." And I said, "Well, I'll show you. It's easier." And I pointed to two ladies way over in the corner. And when the brunette was facing away and the redhead or whatever was could have looked at us, but neither were paying attention because I just lightly nodded. Said, "Do you know them?" He said, "No, why?" I'm gonna have the brunette write me a letter." What? I said, "I'm gonna have the brunette write me a letter. Perfectly harmless." Well, he forgot about it. We're eating, and all during dinner, I kept thinking about that brunette and coming over, and I'm the guy in the red shirt or whatever I had on. Come write me a letter, harmless. He was eating. He forgot about it, my roommate. And about 15 minutes later, as they left, the redhead walked through, or whatever color, I can't remember. The brunette walked through, and she threw a napkin down the table. And she had written in big, bold black letters, "Why are you doing this to me?" And I freaked out, and I showed my roommate. He went, I wanted to run out and chase her down and say, "What did you feel?" Because I'm trying to figure out
Yeah.
how the other side is received. What did I do? But I was too blown away. I was affecting people, not necessarily hurting them, but they were very concerned. I was doing stuff that was not normal. Nobody knew what to do or say, much less me. There's a time that I thought I was Jesus Christ reincarnated several times during this week from January 31st, 77 to February 7th. I saw it in symbolism and so forth. I thought, man, I can't take that road. I can't even make sense of what I'm hearing and feeling and seeing, let alone carry some. Nope. If I signed up, I'm reneging. And so I didn't quite understand it. But after a week of this, yeah, I was terrified. I had to leave my apartment, our little duplex. I was going to take a big long walk, maybe go over to my girlfriend's house. My car was broken. It was, 6 miles away and cold. But I didn't care. I just put on a jacket and started walking. And then I started feeling these monitors talking to me, saying, "Keep your eyes on the light. Watch for the signs." So every time I'd see a light, I had to constantly see a light, a star, a headlight, a traffic light, some form of light always had to be visible and was, even stars or whatever. But I kept feeling some sort of celestial or godly or helpful or angelic. The only thing I could imagine could understand what I was going through did, but they ain't talking. I could feel them around me, and I kept saying, "Man, what's going on?" And it was sort of like a pat on the back. "You're cool." Well, I wasn't sure if it was cool anymore or not. On February 7th, and left my apartment, was walking fast and looking at lights and trying to read the signs, and got picked up by a guy, and he took me up near Guadalupe Street here in Austin, Texas. And I started racing down Guadalupe Street, praying and crying and terrified. I couldn't take it anymore. Okay, it was a thrill ride. It's been a thrill ride, but cut it off. Please, what the hell is going on? I can't take this anymore. And all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, I felt warm. I felt fearless. And I looked up and I saw this huge light about 6 feet above me. And I went, wow, like a pillar of light. And I looked all around at these pedestrians who'd been watching me because I'm in the middle of a big circle because I'd been crying and praying and they didn't know what the hell to do. And I was almost wanting to say, hey, back away. I might blow up because I was at a critical point where I didn't know what to do or what to believe. But all of a sudden, this light and this warmth, and they didn't recognize it, and I didn't care. And I looked back up, and they said, "Do you trust us?" in one voice. And there was 7 white-robed, kind of angelic-looking figures. Couldn't quite see their face, as if their face didn't matter. It looked like kind of a TV screen raster, black and white. Don't worry about our faces; it's our presence. Don't try to figure us out. you know, do you trust us? And I said, man, I don't understand what's going on. I'm terrified of it. Shh. Do you trust us? Meanwhile, these people on the street are just looking at me because I'm talking to something that ain't there as far as they can see. And to me, I didn't care because it's the only thing that made sense. Long story short, I said yes, and within a couple seconds, I was hit head on by a speeding car. Bam! I was outside my body, looking at my body being tumbled over by the speeding car and cars honking and screaming. And then all of a sudden, the whole city of Austin turned into a little dot because I was expanding like a surface of a balloon going out in all directions. And as soon as I felt that, I immediately realized that's how we leave the body.
Mm.
At death, we go out like a balloon. When we come in at birth, we collapse inward from every spot on the edge of the universe, whether it's a hypothetical numerological thing or whatever, because they can't really define what the edge of the universe is. Physicists can't. Doesn't matter. This power of creation is far beyond physics, and I love physics. I study quantum physics all the time, which, by the way, during this escalating period of psychic ability, I kept seeing that the quantum level, the smallest level of subatomic particles, is the interface between the non-physical and the physical. That's what makes the physical work, exist. It
So, what did
allows.
that look like?
I
Or
was had that
clocks?
feeling several times because I couldn't sleep at night just looking at the wall. I'd have a candle on and everything's vibrating like, I did a lot of psychedelics, so I know, but it was far beyond what any psychedelic could ever do because it didn't stop and it kept getting deeper. And I was terrified, but fascinated. It's just this little tight, tightrope, but it wasn't like it was the day before or 2 days before, and now about 4 or 5 days before. It kept getting more intense. And by the 7th day, like I said, I was hit by this speeding car, expanding outward. And as I looked up the monitors, like I said, they were kind of faceless, as if don't worry about us. Just if you trust us, enjoy the ride. I didn't know what ride or what I was trusting them for, but it was certainly better than the terrified feeling I'd had, in spite of the ecstasy that came with it. You know, I needed to kind of go one way or another, either die or figure this out. It's too intense. And I'm zooming through the universe, expanding. And then I went through the edge of the universe, which I felt like I went through a level of consciousness that named itself the colors. And that's a level of consciousness that I felt like when our soul collapses in from the edge of the universe to the birth, we take an impression of everything. And the colors is a level of consciousness to give us the power to use our senses, our mind, our hearing, our intelligence, our body, our brain, our spirituality to comprehend who we are and where we came from and why. Now, we don't have to go on that voyage. You never have to ask the question, but it'll bang on your head endlessly, which is exactly what's happening now in this intense period. Because as I went through, expanded, I completely forgot who I was, had no idea. It was pure sensation, fearless, beautiful. I can't describe how beautiful and empowering, but no awareness to me. And then I felt like I was shot through this. I got out of the edge of the universe, and it was just one of billions of stars in the skies, all these infinite universes. And they seemed to roll up like a big tunnel of light. Very good description. It really was. It's like silver clouds going around me, and I'm getting shot through this tunnel of light. And then I end up in this infinite, clear void, heavenly blue. And it was the mind of God, infinite mind. And instantly I realized it's infinity. Number one, it's completely unbiased. It's infinite creativity. Humans are biased, not infinite mind. It either existed in infinite form, as it does, and infinite possibilities over infinite time, or it wouldn't exist and nothing would exist. There's no in between. There's no half exist. There's no half infinite power. Who's ever over that, that's the boss. You know. And it was fascinating because it was extremely personal in the sense that, at least for me, not knowing it was me at the time, got to see it, be part of it. And it felt like I was there for infinity. That's why I named the book I wrote a Second Eternity, because it felt it went on and on. I had no idea of a body and earth and creation and that. And some point during this infinite kind of show and tells what it was doing, you're spinning around showing all these different creations and universes, so much that I can't even, it's so instantaneous, I can't. It's like if someone read 50 volumes of encyclopedia to you in a millisecond, you couldn't read it, you couldn't remember it all. You know? But it was, but you knew you're getting loaded for this information. And as I'm going through this, somewhere in there, I started thinking, maybe I'm witnessing this. I felt like I was at one with it and just one of these many molecules, but all of a sudden I'm witnessing it and I'm pulled back. And I have no idea why or where I'm going to, but I liked where I was, but I'm getting pulled back. And I went back through this tunnel of light and kind of the whole process of how I got there in reverse. Still no idea who I was. But the closer I got to this galaxy, I felt I had some affiliation. And plus, this solar system is like, wait, maybe I know somebody here. Because as the closer I got to this galaxy and this solar system, the more I felt this familiarity, but I couldn't quite put my finger on. Maybe I know someone here. Who knows? And as I got to Earth, that feeling got stronger. Then I saw three series of pictures, one like flashcards, newspapers, spinning headlines. And they were of what we're going through now. I saw 9/11, I saw COVID-19, I saw the bank crisis, I saw these wars, I saw buildup. Uh, and this is 1977. I saw the whole world interconnected on stuff like Dick Tracy, the magic wall, the internet, you know. It blew me away. The second series of pictures, this is all about the chaos and the change we're going through now, was the first series. The second series was showing like the age of Aquarius, where we're headed in another 100 years, 50 years, 200 years. Because we're headed into a whole new world, but it ain't a shift overnight. It's a 100-year transition, at least. And we're right in the middle of it. But that other next chapter of humanity is beautiful. And we're getting to see now all the flaws and holes in ourselves and in our systems so we can fix them. Because you can't fix something if you don't know it's broken or see where it's broken. Then the third series of pictures came in with this musician. And I thought, man, maybe do I know this guy? And he's traveling, he plays piano. And then I got real close to my body and saw it on the street. And traffic stopped, people screaming, well, that's me. And I jumped in my body, and just red hairs hanging over me. It's the driver. He's terrified. Man, I tried to stop. I could let it show. I just been to heaven and back. I didn't feel any pain whatsoever. I looked up and saw the car all banged in, the windshield broken. I think I did that. And looking around, saw people screaming and call the police, call the ambulance. And man, I just been to heaven. I jumped to my feet, just wow. Did any of y'all see this? These monitors that are That didn't make things look any better. Not only was I just hit head on by a speeding car and bounced over and landed on the street, but to their point of view, prior to that, I'd been talking to something that they didn't see. Then that happened. And then after that, I jumped to my feet like it didn't even happen. I didn't feel it, you know? But that little auto thing with not getting a scratch was nothing compared to what I just saw. So I just dismissed it immediately. But to them, it was like, whoa, cops, ambulance, police, no time at all came to the scene. I was going to walk home. And they, no, no, no. And I stay to the cops. I thought, yeah, I'll just explain what happened. Not hurt. I'll go home. Good luck. Cops came, police, ambulance. They're looking all around for a body in the middle of the street. Of course, there ain't one. I'm up talking to people. I had to say, I'm the guy you're looking for. And everybody said, yep, it's him, you know. And they came up to me and they were mind blown that I was even standing and looking out the car. And I said, look, I'm not hurt at all. Can I go home? I don't think so. And some cops went over and talked to the witnesses. And then they came back to me and, or a couple stayed with me and asked me what happened. Well, what happened is I just went through a week of escalating psychic ability I had no idea of understanding, and felt these monitors protect me, and they showed up and protected me from getting hurt. But that didn't make sense, but it was the truth. You asked. And they kept wanting me to, confess to some crime that they could understand, so they couldn't really arrest me for anything. So they took me to the hospital, ambulance, and put me in the ER and checked me out. Didn't get a scratch, not hurt. Uh, but they couldn't let me just go home after this. They sent a psychiatrist in, and I knew his whole name and his history and his thing with his kids and his family, and he was mind blown. Have you ever been a patient of mine? I said, nope, nope. How do you know this? I said, I know everything right now. Told him how his wife had changed the furniture, or no, how he changed the furniture last week and his wife didn't approve. And he goes, how did you? I said, I can't explain. He said, well, I've read about this. I've never seen anybody who, he said, you are now. You're looking right at somebody. It's true. What you read about people saying about it is true. I didn't even know the term near death experience. I had no idea that anybody, until he mentioned, I've heard about these kinds of experiences. I didn't. I never even thought about it till now. Now I
Yeah,
can't.
because I think Dr. Raymond Moody coined it around that time,
Uh-huh.
around 1975. So it was probably virtually unknown at
And
that
I was
time.
hustling around as a musician, trying to make rent,
Sure.
struggling as a musician, which I did for a lot of my life because I started playing guitar in '63. And when the Beatles and pop music came out, I learned it all. Played all through high school and college, and got out, served as a conscientious objector, stayed out of the service, and then decided to play music because I liked engineering, but it was all defense work, and I went, screw that. So I ended up playing music most of my life. And so anyway, they wouldn't let me out of the hospital, just walk home. They had to get an order of protective custody to put me in jail. They had to put me in jail till they got an order of protective custody to put me under a mandatory commitment. So they put me in jail for 2 days until my brother and family could sign the documents. And when they put me in jail, they put me in a cell all by myself, which I was grateful for. But I could hear all these other inmates around me screaming and hollering. And who are you, buddy? What'd you do? So I gave them about a 30-second rundown of the last week. It blew their mind. That's what I'm in here for, man. I jumped across time and space and broke the what? And so a couple of them started asking me, hey, man, I got a case. And I started telling them about their case and their lawyer. And I was dead right on. Hell, I couldn't turn it off. Anybody mentioned anything, the jailer walked by, I could feel everything about him and his family. In fact, the second time the jailer came by, he put his head up to me and said, you are not a lawyer. Do not give legal advice to these people, or I will put you in solitary confinement, which did not sound like fun, number one. Number two, gave me an excuse to sit down and relax, because if someone asks something, an automatic autopilot of, here's the answer. I was so grateful for this experience, but could not understand why. A couple of days later, they committed me to my parents and brothers signed the paperwork. I went to Shoal Creek Psychiatric Hospital here. Excuse me, private hospital. Everybody on my floor called me Mr. Smiles. I was playing music for them, entertaining everybody, completely harmless. At the end of the week, I went for a board of 10 psychiatrists or five and some healthcare workers because they have to know if they should expect or ask or request for another 10-day mandatory commitment or let me free. And I said, I ain't changing my story. What I told you guys, what I told my psychiatrist, what I told the nurse every day is absolutely true. So you can lock me up forever. I ain't going to change my mind. But you're a psychiatrist and you're curious about this. You ought to be asking me questions in depth about what I went through instead of can I handle myself at home and cook. And I mean, come on. Of course, they realized that smarter than they were, to some degree, at least about some things. So yeah, they let me out. I had another bout about a month and a half later. I did a short-term stay in the Austin State Hospital here. My parents came down. My roommate called and said, he's going over the edge again. And I was. And the second time, first time in Shoal Creek, they gave me quite a lot of lithium carbonate. And when I went to Shoal Creek, they couldn't afford that expensive drug. They gave you Thorazine. But I was so amped up, I still took a handful a day and couldn't sleep. Months later, I asked my guides over and over and over, why did this happen to me? Thank you, no problem. I'm extremely grateful. I couldn't ask for a more beautiful voyage, empowering, liberating, truth-filled. God, but why me? How did you guys pick my number? And it was months later in the fall. I was out on my porch playing my guitar again, asking that question, like I did so many dozens, hundreds of times in that interim. Just me and my mind, me and the universe. Didn't mention it to any of my roommates or friends. They wouldn't have thought of asking it. They were just concerned if I was all right. All right. Thank you, universe. But months later, when I was sitting out at the porch playing my guitar, I could feel them, the monitors out in the front yard. I couldn't see them, but I could kind of sense them. And they shot a light like a laser right into my head. I'll never forget this. And bam, and the traffic stopped, the wind stopped, time stopped. And they started repeating this, what I was seeing, like credits at the end of a Superman movie vanishing in the distance. And the essence of it was you had this experience because you started asking way back when you were an altar boy, you wanted to know the truth. And you kept asking, and you kept asking, and you try this, and you try that. You were ready to handle the truth. And we took you because you wanted to see. That desire to see, I've thought about it from that moment forward because it's true. It's exactly. I've always wanted. You show me more. Show me more. Let me help me understand. God, if there are rules, we got to know them. you know. And the rules are pretty simple. The golden rule, and karma. That pretty well sums up a lot, you know. So yeah, I was extremely grateful. And this is like the fall of '77, and that's the second most beautiful day of my life when I finally realized why I got to see this. And so in my books and in my writings, and I give readings.
Back to your NDE, Gary. It seems like the week before you were getting a preview of sometimes, generally speaking, the NDE happens and then the psychic abilities may
Right,
follow, but
right.
yours was in reverse. And so I also like the experience. It seemed like you were in that infinite mind. So was it pure non duality on the other side?
Absolutely. Duality comes with yin and yang, polarity, male, female, night, day, earth, life, death, moon, sun, the attraction of subatomic particles, if it wasn't plus and minus, there wouldn't be matter. And speaking of which, quantum physicists talk about random quantum fluctuations at the beginning of the universe that made matter happen. That's why there's a lot of stuff there and empty space there. It's not perfectly homogeneous. Now, if you look at it as a whole, it is because there's stuff everywhere, but it's different. And I don't believe it was random quantum fluctuations that made it. I believe it was infinite mind going, okay, here's how I'll create a universe and all these planets. Bing, done. And then science comes along and goes, wow, it's random quantum. Yeah, from your point, it's random. Ain't random. I don't believe in randomness. I don't believe in accidents. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything happens by some form of cause and effect, period. And, you don't end up, in Saudi Arabia for a lunch by accident, unless you're kidnapped, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Being both the observer and the observed on the other side, what did that feel like? Did you keep a little bit of your personality, or were you 100% like disengaged from Gary here?
As I went from the street, the intensity, the seeing the monitors, the car incidents, almost immediately after I was hit by the car and observing it, and very quickly after I had no awareness of myself. It was just pure sensation. In fact, like I said, in coming back, I was apprehensive. Where am I? I liked where I was at. Where am I going? You know? And only by me recognizing, well, no, when I recognized my body around these screaming people, whatever I use the term spiritual gravity in my book and in life because I felt like I was pulled back here by spiritual gravity. For some reason, I came back, even though I didn't know who I was until I got back here and went, wow, can we do that again? No, I don't need to do it again. Once is enough. Once was beautiful enough for me. I'll, uh, I'll forever stay inspired in spite of what goes on and forever feel an obligation to encourage others to, too. Because that's our real power internal, spiritual, mental. The one thing we can always change our perspective, the way we look at things. You can close the shades, it'll make your room darker, but you ain't going to stop the sun. So we have power in some areas, but some areas we don't. And I always suggest to people don't worry about what you can't change and where you don't have power. If you're interested, read about it, see it on TV, but don't let it drive you nuts. And that's a choice to let everything we experience in life help us grow and evolve and learn, just like it's a choice to go, hey, I don't hear this, I don't get it, life doesn't care, I'm being picked on, and this ain't fair. Where's the complaint department? Good luck.
Sure. Gary, do you think we all have psychic abilities?
Oh, absolutely. We're born with it. Hold your hands up. You got 10 fingers. See, you can play the piano. Now, whether you do or not is another thing. If you didn't have 10 fingers, you couldn't play piano, but you do. Everybody has psychic ability, but whether they choose to tune into it or not is a choice. During this very period of today, as we go from the age of Pisces to Aquarius, this transition, what I saw 45 years ago, that kind of terrified me then, and now living in it in real time still kind of terrifies me. But I see the necessity of all our systems breaking down so we can refix them. We have to upgrade, whether it's our systems or ourselves, because if we don't, we stay stuck, and that's a choice too. But why? When everything can help us become wiser and smarter. And if we never went through crap, you'd never learn how to take a good shower. Sorry, that's fact. If you never went through change or surprises or curveballs or fear or doubt, you could never become fearless or certain or deal with curveballs. Period. I always have a theory, as long as it's hitting the fan, everything's working because something's happening and I get a chance to learn more. It's when there's nothing hitting the fan and nothing going on, unless it's self-induced meditation or peace, maybe I should listen, you know. That's not fear, that's attention.
What did that Andy, in terms of your death teach you about how to truly live?
About my own death?
Yeah.
Well, I'm 78. I continually update my will. I don't know if I'm going to be here another week or another decade. Probably not a decade, but I'll probably be around for a couple more years. That's what I feel. But I don't know. You know, I could go out tomorrow, but I'm not afraid of it. Now, nobody wants to suffer. That's the difference. Nobody wants to suffer, and some people do. And I have to admit, most of my life, I never suffered any physical things till the last 10 years. And now I got a bunch of challenges. Sitting around me all over are canes. I can get from A to B. But I'm still the happiest person on the planet because there's people in Ukraine. There's people with no food. There's people with nobody to love, nobody to care for. Man, I am so grateful, and 99% of the people on the planet should be grateful, period. And we should all help that other 1%, or 90 help the 10%. There's plenty for everybody. I remember when I started reading Edgar Cayce way back in the 60s, late 60s. Of course, he didn't write books, they were transcribed from his readings. But many times, a couple things stuck out. Number one, mind is the creator, individual and collective. Mind makes things happen. Number two, he underlined the importance of the golden rule, the importance of we're going through reincarnations, the importance of learning and forgiving and moral values. And those things do matter. Now, we choose to be good people or not, uh, but everything's going to balance out. If you're a jerk, it's going to come back to you maybe in 5 minutes, maybe in 10 lifetimes. But everything's going to have to balance just like it does in matter. If it wasn't for this perfect balance of nature between subatomic particles and numbers and pi and energies, matter would disperse and not exist, and we wouldn't be here. Everything is perfectly fine-tuned for what we see. And that ain't a coincidence. Now, it may look like that from scientific point of view because they can't figure out why pi is this and why E is that and why. Uh, but hell, you're trying to figure out the universe is certainly not an easy task, you know, especially putting it into numbers and theories. But to grok it, to feel it, to be in touch with it, you don't have to be a physicist. You don't have to be that smart. You just have to believe in the good, ask your heart, ask questions. Because again, we have to upgrade. Just like you want your car to run, you got to take it down and change the oil. It ain't going to go do it itself. you know, proactive, proactive, constantly upgrade. And it just like anything in life, the more you practice, the more it becomes second nature. Whether it's golf or playing piano or upgrading, and continue learning. It's a matter of practice and choice.
I have a question about the seven beings you initially saw. Were they
Mhm.
the monitors, or did you come to understand who they were?
In 1980, I met the lady who did this reading for me named Alice Worrell, the greatest psychic I've ever known. My experience happened in 77. But in 1980, I told her about this experience and asked her. I mean, she told me all about so much stuff. She's the greatest psychic ever. Uh, I could write volumes about because we became very good personal friends, and I was always helping her with her car and her kids and her rent, and she was always saying, Gary, I can't pay you back. And I kept saying, Alice, all I want from you is when you pass over, still be my guide. I mean, you're my guide here, but you're a phone call away. So I don't want to lose that connection. And she is. And when I do readings, I put particular stones that she had pointing toward me. I use techniques to center that energy in intentions. And before I do a reading, I always take my deck of cards, regular playing cards, and shuffle them and read them. Ask if my guides are there. Ask what's going on with the person I'm about to talk to. Get a little bit ahead of the curve. Um, and I would have never probably thought that or believed that, or had I not seen the connections as I did in 77 between the psychic and spiritual and what we sense and see and feel. There's a direct connection. Now, you don't have to study it, investigate it. I got 6 brothers. None of them did, only me. 99% of the people on the planet don't think like you and I, or care, although it's getting to be a higher percentage. Uh, but again, we're going through this whole world change to try and encourage all of us to, ask the right questions. Look, grow, evolve. It's almost like the universe is saying, "Hey, do we got your attention? Now we got your attention."
Yeah. So did she tell you who they were?
Oh yeah, she
Alice?
mentioned
Yeah.
it. She said they, from her perspective, she said they kind of look like Greece, which I never quite understood. But as soon as she said that, I saw there was a movie about the aliens or something many 10 years ago that looked like that. They're writing on a screen. I forgot. Maybe it's called Arrival. That's it. And when I saw it, I thought, this is how she described these monitors, is this sort of texture moving. She said they have about 100 to 150,000 year lifespan as we see it. They don't incarnate into the body. And yeah, since that day, I asked them to reveal to me who they were and why I had this trip. They revealed why I had the trip. Who they are was sort of, I had to just get the picture because when they gave me this information, you got this because you're asking. They also said you got to watch your diet, you got to watch your bipolar, you got to not go crazy, you got to balance out. You're an extremist, and I am. I'm a double Scorpio. I go through all sorts of extremes. Uh, so they gave me a lot of advice, but then I felt like at the time, and especially when they came back and said, we gave you this because you're asking, I felt like they were kind of signing off. Like our duty with you is done. They do this particular thing. Just like there's every level of existence, survival, power, goals from the amoeba up to us. On the other side, there's that many levels and more. They're just not as differentiated as things here. And they can be in the same time and place because there's no time and place. There's infinite everywhere. Here, stuff can only be at one spot or another, you know, laws of physics, which are true. But thought, awareness, that sort of thing, it's timeless. It's infinite, and more than anything, it's accessible. That's what really blows my mind to this day, to this moment. That's what I encourage other people to believe. Just like the home run, you want to hit it, believe it. you know, you won't hit them all, but you'll hit more.
Yeah, I feel the mindset is so important, having that belief.
We do get to choose how information and life and experiences and thoughts hit us. Now, whether we accept that or not and try to upgrade, that's all choice and awareness. Most people, a lot, certainly a lot of people don't believe they have the power. You know, as
Yeah,
long as you,
yeah, it seems like we have the mindset if we see it, we'll believe it. When it's the other way around, if we believe it, then we'll see it. So it's like tweaking of the words. Gary, I have 3 questions for you. What brings you joy and laughter these days?
everything.
What would you tell young Gary as he's about to embark on this great adventure?
I think somehow my guides or my future self now told me many times in my life, have faith, don't worry. Because, like I said, I'm the only musician out of a self-employed musician my whole life out of seven kids.
What final message or blessing do you have for those listening?
2026, that's a number one in numerology. It's a new start. don't shortchange ourselves, people. We can't change all the crap that happened to this up to this second. We can't change each other, but we can affect each other. We can help each other. We can inspire each other. You can feed the hungry. You can take care of the poor. You can do things, and we can always learn to do them better and kinder. And it's not stupid to do that. It's smart to help your fellow human beings. Follow the golden rule. You want things to work in your life, follow the golden rule. You may have to plant seeds for a week before the flowers come up, or a decade, or a couple lifetimes. But you know what? You plant enough seeds, you have a whole garden of flowers. Believe it.
Thank you so much, Gary, for being here with me today. Thank you for being here. If you haven't liked or subscribed yet, I invite you to do so. Please come along on this journey with me as we explore life, death, and consciousness together.